Hi everybody, excuse me for a minute while I try to get this situated here. I am excited to come on here live and talk about all things homeschool. So let me get myself situated here. As you guys come in, let me know a couple of things. Let me know where you're watching from. Let me know, okay, so this is working. Let me know if you are a homeschooler, and if you are not a homeschooler, are you thinking about it? Do you just want information? Let me know how long you've been homeschooling, how many kids you're homeschooling. I'm still trying to get this situated, so excuse me here. Let me know what grades you're homeschooling, how long you've been homeschooling, all of that. We're going to talk about all things homeschooling. I want to answer as many questions as I can in this video because I've had so many questions lately. I know that many people are toying with the thought of homeschooling this year. So if that's you, you can pick my brain for a little bit. And if you are a seasoned homeschooler, then you can encourage others as well, or we can just share information. So let me know if this is clear, if you can hear it. Just comment so I know that somebody's there and I'm not talking to myself. I know it says 6 people are here, but I don't know if there really are. So if you guys could do that, I want to hear from you. How's your day? How are you guys? What's going on? I haven't been on here live in quite a bit. I posted some links in the video here for you, so I hope those will be helpful. I posted some links to my homeschooling books, and I actually should have posted a link to the homeschool consulting. Hey, if you would like to book a homeschool consulting appointment with me, they're 1 hour on the phone. I'd be happy to do that. But right now, you can ask your questions. I'm here. So let me know in the comments if you can hear this, and somebody let me know because I feel like I'm talking to myself. Hang on. Okay, I just heard it on my computer, so it's working. Okay, so I want to hear from you guys. If you're homeschooling, if you've been doing this a while, if you are just starting out, do you have questions? I have a list here. Okay, hi Kylie, somebody's out there, yay! I have a list here that I'm going to go through as many questions as I can. Okay, thank you, Patty. It's just nice to know I'm not talking to myself because, you know, I'm thinking, like, what if I'm talking and nobody hears me and I go through this for an hour and nobody hears me? So thank you for letting me know. So I'm going to go through some information, some questions. People have been writing me, you know, a lot lately because a lot of people are thinking about homeschooling and a lot of people have questions and I want to address as much as I can in this time. Hey, Katie, you're watching from Pennsylvania. I'm your neighbor over the border. I'm right over the border of Pennsylvania and New Jersey. You have kids entering 2nd grade and kindergarten. You just started looking into homeschooling. Well, ask your questions because I have been homeschooling we're going on our 15th year. It's just something I've always been passionate about sharing with others, and I would love to help you as much as I can. So ask any questions, get information, glean some information. Hey, Stephanie, you can hear me in Georgia, homeschooling 3 this year. Hey, Amy, how are you? So thank you guys for letting me know that you're here. I just want to talk about all things homeschooling. So, like I said, I know a lot of people are thinking about it, but then there's also the group of us who have been doing this a long time and are like, is this really still worth doing, right? Because sometimes when you're in the middle of it, you hit hard points. Really exciting, actually, while I'm talking about that. I wrote a new book, a new homeschooling book, after I said I would never write another book. I wrote my Simply Living for Him devotional. I linked that up here. I wrote that. It came out after Christmas. And I said after that process, I will never write another book. Well, you know what happens when you say never. And so while we were in quarantine time, it was good for me because I really actually was pretty productive ministry-wise. And one of the things that I just kept thinking about was I really wanted to write this book because this year my speaking season got canceled, but I was able to speak at one event right before all this happened. And I had a new session this year called Homeschooling from Kindergarten to College, and it talked all about our journey. You know, I homeschooled from kindergarten to graduation for my first, and I'm still homeschooling the 3 behind her. And that session went so well, and so many people had such good feedback, and I was like, I want to put this into a book. And so I spent quarantine time writing that book, and I am in the process, it's all written, I'm just now in the process of getting it published and edited and all that. I self-publish, which is why I said I never wanted to do this again, because I don't like that part of it. If I could just like snap my fingers and you guys could have this book in your hands, you would. But I've got to edit it and format it and do all that fun stuff. So that book, though, it's not a guide of like, here's how to homeschool, you know, from kindergarten all the way through high school. It's really going to address a lot of the questions that I get asked all the time. And it's really going to show you. So the tagline of the book is homeschooling from kindergarten to college, building a family and not just a transcript. And it's really all about the homeschooling journey as a journey to build your family. Our ultimate goal is not necessarily, you know, college and academics and career. Our ultimate goal is to disciple our children. And so I'm really excited because this book talks more about the heart than the how-to. So if that sounds like something you would like, hit the little heart button so I know, and then you will have to look out for the new book coming this fall, Lord willing. So I have to tell you, I'm hot, and you guys know me, I love hot weather, but our air condition is broken, and so my little office here, it's hot, and I'm looking at the screen and I feel like I'm glowing, not in a good way. So I know you guys don't mind. I like to keep it real, but this is not some kind of like, I'm trying to look dewy. I'm glowing because I'm hot. And I didn't want to put the fan on because when I'm doing the live video, all you're going to hear is the fan in the background. So anyway, if you see me doing this, hey Shauna, how are you, my friend? Shauna says, sounds like a wonderful gift for some friends of mine. You are so sweet. Kylie says she's starting out her 4th year and finally free from obsessing. Let's talk about that today, okay? And you're peaceful and trusting the Lord with your homeschool. If you guys, I should have linked it up here. If you guys haven't seen the blog post that I wrote on Simply Living for Him, I will link it when I'm done. I can't do it at the same time. I'm not a multitasker like that. It's called My Perspective on Homeschooling Changed After My Daughter Went to College. And that post has really resonated with so many people. Because it was like as soon as my daughter graduated high school last year, all of a sudden I felt like everything came into perspective. All of a sudden it was like looking in the rearview mirror was crystal clear about what really mattered on this journey. And I also, Kylie, spent the first several years obsessing about the wrong things. And if I could have put all that energy into my Bible time and growing with the Lord and building my family, you know, we would have probably not made as many mistakes as I did early on. But that's part of the reason I wrote the new book as well, because I really want to share this journey is about so much more than academics. I mean, if you guys have followed me a while, you know that's how I feel, right? It is about so much more than academics. You are building a family, you are growing an adult. You are growing an independent adult who's going to leave you someday. And it's about so much more than just a transcript or a curriculum or a method or what system you're going to use. So all of that stuff is in the book. And I'm really excited about it. So let me know your questions, because I'm going to just briefly tell you, in case you haven't heard already, my story. I won't tell the whole long drawn out story. You can find that actually in my podcast. There's an episode titled An Unlikely Homeschooler. And I tell my real long drawn out story of how I came to homeschool. Also in my podcast, there are several episodes. I'll try to link all this when I'm done. But you can just go to the podcast and search in the archives. There are several episodes that I did recently, one with Grace, my homeschool graduate. If you want to hear the perspective of somebody who actually made it all the way through homeschool and then went off to college, you'll hear her perspective on homeschooling. And then I also had my son, my 15-year-old son, on the podcast recently, and we talked about his perspective from, you know, being a teenage boy in the thick of homeschooling. And so if you want to hear their stories, go check out those episodes in the podcast archives, and I will, like I said, link them. So ask your questions in the comments. Hang on while I take a little sip of my coffee here. Okay, I know it's hot and I'm drinking hot coffee, but all right, so ask your questions. Let me know about you, who you are, where you're watching from, your homeschooling journey. If you are just thinking about homeschooling, I want you to list your reasons why you don't think you can do it, because we're going to talk about that in a minute too. All right, so there's so much I could talk about. I mean, I could talk about homeschooling all day long, right? You guys who know me. I started homeschooling when my daughter, the one who has now completed her first year of college. Yes, homeschoolers can go to college and be successful. So she just completed her first year of college. And we started homeschooling her when she was just 5 years old and kindergarten. So we have never sent our children to school. They have always been homeschooled. I have 4 children. The oldest is 19, then 17, 15, and 11. And so 3 boys and 1 girl. And so we've always homeschooled since the very beginning. God called me to homeschool. And I truly believe for anybody out there that no matter what your reason for homeschooling, like we all have different reasons, right? Some of us may have been homeschoolers. Some of us may have, wanted to build that biblical foundation at home. Some of you may have, have special needs children. Some of you may be in the middle of a pandemic and you feel like it's time to bring them home, right? So there's different sets of circumstances that we all face, but I believe that through those circumstances, those are the unique set of circumstances that God puts you in order to call you to this journey of homeschooling. And so God called me to homeschool. She was just 5 years old. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't really want to homeschool because I thought it was weird. Does anyone else out there, had that perception? It's okay to admit that here because I thought it was weird. I was like, I'm not doing that. That's like for those other people, not for me. And here I am, homeschool speaker, right? And author and homeschool proponent. So God will change the plan if that's his intention. So anyway, I really did feel like he was calling me, even though I didn't want to do it. So we committed to doing it for 1 year. And I thought, well, I can obey God for 1 year, get it out of my system, and then we'll send her to school like normal people. Here we are. So anyway, it's been an amazing journey. I mean, I couldn't actually, summarize it all in this video today. But I write about it a bit in my book called Home, which I linked here. And so, it was hard in the beginning. We were up against a lot of obstacles because not everybody was a fan of homeschooling in my family. And, we have gotten through all those obstacles. And the key to our success, because, what is success in homeschooling? The key to our success in homeschooling has been keeping God at the center. I will tell you right now, if you're thinking about homeschooling or you're in the thick of it, the key to your success is not the curriculum. It is not the method you choose or the style you choose or the co-op you choose or, the schedule you choose or the planner you choose. The key to your success is to seek God first in everything you do. Matthew 6:33. That is the key to your success, because if you keep God at the center, then everything you do is an outflow of him and your relationship with him. If you keep God at the center and you are relying on him, you will be successful. And that's another question. What is success? Everybody defines things differently. For us, our success was to teach our children to know and love the Lord. And, everything else would be built upon that. We didn't start out with this saying, we're doing this because we want to raise somebody to go to Harvard. We're doing this because, even to be on our high horse and say, we're doing this because, we want to teach the Bible. We're doing this because we want our kids to follow God. And we believe that having them home with us and building a family and relationships and not being all scattered in different places every day was really the key to how we wanted to raise our kids. All right, so let me just back up a second. All right, so Lynn says you're going on 10 years of homeschooling and you're in Canada. Hi, Canada. That's awesome. Carol says your son is going into 5th grade and he has been asking you to homeschool him. And you have a high schooler. It just feels too late. No, 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 it is not too late. High school, we're going to talk about high school. So if you have a high schooler, hit the like button. We're going to talk about high school in a minute. When my kids were little, I couldn't imagine having teenagers. I couldn't imagine having high schoolers. And I always said, we will not homeschool high school because that's, really being crazy. And I have to tell you that homeschooling high school has been the biggest joy. And homeschooling teenage boys has been a greater joy than I could ever imagine. And I mean that wholeheartedly. And that is because I really wholeheartedly believe that we built the family. That was our main concern. The kingdom of God has always been our main concern. Our main concern was doing all things for the Lord and keeping our family tight with God at the center. Were we perfect? Absolutely not. We had so many rough times, so many hard days, way too much days of mommy yelling, and honestly, looking back, those are also the things God uses to grow us and mature us. And because we went through those hard times and hard things together, right? At home every day together. Okay, so let's see. I don't even know where to begin with questions because I have so many questions here. So let me just start with, the people that are like, can I even homeschool? Is it legal? Of course, yes. In every state it is legal, but every state has different guidelines. I'm very fortunate because where I live in my state, I didn't have to answer to anybody. I didn't have to submit records. I didn't have to do really anything. So I had registered my daughter for kindergarten and then realized, no, we're not doing this. And all I did back then was simply say, oops, made a mistake. She's not coming. Like I just sent them a letter and said, she's not coming. If I hadn't registered her for kindergarten, I wouldn't have had to do anything. I wouldn't have had to tell anybody. Now, I know every state is different. So for me, I do, not in the early years at all, but in high school, I do keep an eye on what the state requires for their graduation, just so I can kind of make sure that we're, providing them with the proper classes to graduate. But even that, as a homeschooler, it's like you're operating your own private school. You can really graduate them with, whatever you feel is needed. And that's in my state. That is not in every state. Some states you have a lot stricter guidelines. So go to hslda.org and you will find out what your state requirements are. It's very important to know that before you're getting into it. I always believe God was so gracious to me to have, no really strict guidelines to follow early on, or I think I would have been intimidated and not even started homeschooling. But, no matter how strict your state is, you will be able to do it. Like it's still okay. So every state is different. So check those things out. And then, there's the question of what style, what method. This is what I want to tell you, just like I said before, because early on in the homeschooling journey, I got really wrapped up in all the different homeschooling things. And you can make homeschooling an idol. It's like, this is what we do. We're homeschoolers and, all that. I learned later on that it doesn't matter what style or method I choose. It's really my heart in choosing the style or the method or the curriculum. So we were very, I would say moderate. We weren't unschoolers, but we were not strict, formal, trying to just do school at home. The biggest thing we did that I feel like really helped my children along the way was just allow them to live real life. It cracks me up when people say, how will your kids learn to live in the real world someday if they're not in school? And I'm like, they're in the real world every single day at home because they do the errands with us. They do all the life stuff with us. We're living life together every single day. And so I believe that they actually were really well prepared for life because they were already living it every single day. And so my daughter went off to college last year, and it was so amazing, and God is so gracious because she was so well prepared and so independent, and you look and people say, how could a homeschooler like, leave home and they'll be okay? She was more than okay. She's thriving at college. And so we're just really excited that he's working in her life, and this homeschool journey is never about what you can do. And I'm going to address that now. So if you're like, well, I can't because, and people have told me every reason under the sun, you're absolutely right. You can't, but God can. See, when I first started homeschooling, I was told, like, you're not organized enough, you're not disciplined enough, you're not a teacher. How will you ever be able to do this? You're not, like I said, a trained teacher. Maybe this is just like a fly by the seat of your pants thing. I'm going to homeschool like it's on a whim. All these things that I was told. And I would say, you're right. I wasn't a teacher. I'm not naturally that organized. I work hard at it. Maybe I'm not disciplined enough. Maybe I am a little bit of a spree spirit. But let me introduce you to my God. Because I know that if he calls me to do something, he's going to equip me to do it. Homeschooling has never, ever been about what Karen DeBuse could do. In my flesh, I'm lucky I get out of bed in the morning. In my flesh, I can't do half these things, right? So take it out of your mind right now that you can't homeschool because you're limiting God and what he can do. And he wants to work in your family. He wants to grow your family close together. So the excuses I've heard, I can't spend all day with my kids. Well, you know what? They're your kids. And if you can't, then why, send them off to somebody else? So of course you can. Remember, and I'll say this, I know it's cliche. It goes so fast, and I know it's cliche, and I know that the mom that's in the hard season with a lot of little ones is like, I don't want to think about that. But I have to say, you'll never regret the amount of time you spend with your kids. Even if it feels hard right now, guess what? Anything worth doing isn't easy. Missionaries go off to a third world country because God calls them to. Do you think that's comfortable and easy? And, I never said when I first started out, oh, this will be so easy and I'll never lose my temper and I'll, never mind being with my kids all day. No, but just like any missionary doesn't go out into the mission field saying this is going to be comfortable and easy, it is not always easy, but it is so worth it. And so I couldn't imagine not spending all day with my kids. And, I think homeschooling has allowed us to become so close that I don't have that feeling of like, oh, I just want to send them to school to get them away. I enjoy being with them. And I really believe if you're homeschooling, you'll feel that way too. And some days you will need to get out. And guess what? You can, right? You can, when your husband comes home at the end of the day, go take some alone time. It's really important to have friends that, whether they're homeschooling or not, that you can pray with, that you can tell the nitty-gritty stuff to, that you can text in the middle of the day and be like, look, I need a prayer right now, I'm about to lose it. It's really important to have that kind of support. And so that might be a concern for many people, but that certainly shouldn't be a reason to stop you from homeschooling. So many people say, I can't homeschool because I wasn't a teacher. Well, neither was I. I did not go to college for teaching. And in fact, what I got my college degree in is not what I'm doing these days anyway. But you do not need to be a teacher to teach your own child. If God made you their mother, he can make you their teacher. After all, you were their very first teacher, right? You taught them to walk. You taught them to talk. You taught them to eat with a spoon. You taught them manners. You taught them so many things. Why does that stop at 5 years old? And if you think, well, I can't teach in the higher grades or curriculum, or math is hard. Listen, I struggled through chemistry and algebra with my daughter and we cried together. And thank God we live in a time where there are so many homeschooling resources. So never be afraid that you can't teach your own child, because you absolutely can, especially in the younger years. But you guys learn together. Quite frankly, my high schoolers, they teach themselves at that point, because homeschooling allows for you to teach your children to learn independently, to learn how to be, seeking out information. And so by the time they get to high school for the harder subjects, they're so able to learn that, you don't have to worry about that at all. But a lot of people think, well, I can't possibly teach or they'll say, I can't teach my children because they won't listen to me. Now, I think that's a bigger problem than homeschooling, because if they're not going to listen to you at home, then, it's not somebody else's job at school. So that's like a relationship thing to work on. And homeschooling is the most beautiful and positive way to work on that kind of thing, to work on that relationship. Relationship trumps academics always in homeschooling, because once you build a really strong relationship with your kids, then you can handle like the difficulties that might come into play with academics, because you guys have that really good relationship built. And so when it's like, well, we've got to do the academics, and you're not really like building a relationship, that's where the struggles come in. If you're homeschooling younger kids, it's like just, building that relationship, that trust, that fun. Have fun with your kids. Have fun together, learn together. And it is so helpful and important for later on. How do you homeschool multiple ages? People are like, well, how do you homeschool all 4 of your kids? And I'm like, homeschool 4 of them. I know friends who have, 9, 10 kids. But I always say in school, they have like 25 kids in the classroom. I only have 4, and they're all mine. So it is not nearly as daunting as you think. You can kind of look at that one-room schoolhouse mentality. When they were little, there were so many things that we did together. So many times that we did like history together and science together. A lot of subjects we did together up until middle school. And so they would have like their own, math and language arts, but a lot of other things we did together. And again, that's a lot of relationship building. I address all of that in my new book. There's also a podcast episode about that as well, about homeschooling multiple ages. You can find that as well. But I think it's wonderful to homeschool different age groups, because the older ones can help the little ones learn from the older ones. And again, it's a lot of relationship building. All right, Kylie asked a question. What does discipling and spending time with Jesus look like in your home and your homeschool? Oh, that's a great question, because, that's what I'm all about. And so I have a couple of answers for that. It's been a evolution over the years, and I'm going to be so transparent right now and tell you, in the early years, Bible was a subject in school. When they were very little, it was like, we'll do Bible. And Bible was something that, if we were doing our schoolwork in the morning and I would want to start the day with Bible, but we were getting up late or the baby was fussy, I was like, all right, we don't have time for that. We've got to get to math. We'll do Bible later. And then I realized really quickly that that was not the message I wanted to tell my kids, that Bible is something we put on the side because we have to do math. And so then I made a rule in our home that we didn't open any book until we were in the Bible together first. And then what we would do when they were really little, we would do worship time. We would put on like YouTube videos, so we had the lyrics, and we would all sing together to start our day. And that was really great. But that was about the extent of it. And, still it felt like just something we did to kind of check it off the list. And over the years, God has worked in our family so much in this area, and so much in my own life, where, the Bible is our nourishment. It is not a subject in school, because quite frankly, when they graduate, if you're teaching the Bible as a subject in school and then they graduate, do they know how to have a relationship with the Lord through the Bible on their own when it's not just a subject in school? So, over the years, this has evolved greatly in our family, where it went from something we just did because we were supposed to, and especially in my own life, where it's like your nourishment. You need the Bible. This is the way you communicate with the creator of the universe. And I absolutely love the Bible. I'm teaching a Bible study now in the Simply Living for Him online community. I linked that here. I actually have my notes behind me. I was studying this morning. I cannot tell you how fired up I get when I read the Bible. Like, I said this morning, I want to get a shirt that says, like, God's word is my cardio, because I get so excited. But it wasn't always that way. So that's what I'm going to tell you. So there was a year in our homeschool. It was about, let's see, the kids were ages preschool up to 6th grade. And I really felt convicted that year that I wanted to use the Bible solely to teach my kids. Like, I just wanted to, I needed to, like, not be in the curriculum rat race anymore. I was tired of searching for curriculum and always changing because somebody else said something was better, and always trying to find the perfect curriculum, the perfect system, the perfect method. I just, if you guys know me and you follow me, I'm all about simple. So I was like, I just want it simple. And so I just said, that's it. We're just going to use our Bible this year. How can it go wrong if we're in our Bible hours a day? We're going to deeply study our Bible. So we started in Genesis, and every day, and so I'll just stop there. I have a link here. There's an e-course that describes exactly how we did this in detail. So I'm not going to go into detail now because it's an e-course with, 20 videos where I describe exactly how we did this. And you can find that in the link. But I decided that we just needed a break. And I thought, what's the worst that can happen? Like, we'll do it for 3 months. We started and we were going to end in Christmas. And I was like, we'll just do it for 3 months. We just need a break. Well, the best thing in the world is we ended up doing it for the entire year. That was our best homeschool year ever. We learned our history, our science, our reading and language arts, our writing. Everything I pulled out of what we were studying in the Bible. The only other extra curriculum I bought was math. And that was, oh, hang on a second. What's going on here? Oh, okay. And that was done, separately, but everything else came from the Bible, from what we were studying in the Bible. And it was amazing. So that was the pivotal year in our family and in our homeschool. That was the year that our Bible was no longer just something like a subject. It came alive for my kids. It was just, we kept seeing all the connections in the Old Testament, the New Testament, and all this stuff. And that was the pivotal year, because when we were done with that year, I didn't want to, even though it was our best homeschool year ever, the following year, I wanted to go back to, the usual curriculum. I felt like that was a season, that God had us in that season to teach us so much. And so when we went back to our usual curriculum, we never turned back from that Bible. Like, we still kept studying it from there on out. So even though we didn't use the Bible as our main textbook in our homeschool, what we started doing that year was we started reading at night through the entire Bible. It took us 2.5 years, but we read from beginning to end. I wanted my kids to say, Mommy read me every word of the Bible. I wanted to give them that gift. With the exception of a few words in Leviticus, we really did read through the entire thing. And it took us 2.5 years, but what an amazing thing. And now the Bible in our life wasn't just something we read, it was something we lived out. It became so real to us that, you can't function without this. This is our nourishment, our spiritual grounding, which is so much more important than any other textbook out there. Because when you are operating through the Bible, through the lens of the Bible, then you can handle the way you want to do academics. Then you can handle the things that come your way. So you don't add the Bible into your life, you operate out of the Bible. And so that changed everything for our family. So aside from that, what does it look like in our family? We still do Bible time every single night. We read through the Bible for 2.5 years. After that, we would do various books of the Bible studies. We would do different devotionals. Right now, we're in a little spot where we're not sure what to do at night because we finished the devotionals we were doing and I haven't found anything quite right. So when I don't know, we just read something from the Bible and discuss it together. And so that is so important for our family. And other than that, I believe that the best way to disciple your children is to be a disciple yourself. So when your children see that you're actively in the Word, that you're living out your faith, that you're, not just talking about it, but you're living it, that is really a great way for them to see what a follower of Christ looks like. It's not something separate in your family. It's just where you operate out of, where you live out of. So that is a little bit about what discipleship looks like in our family. Like I said, it doesn't have to be this big program. It's really living out your faith every single day. And then, we have, like I said, our Bible time at night together as a family. So it's no longer really part of school time at all. But my kids, I've always encouraged them, if you guys know me, sorry, I'm hot. If you I have this light on, it's so hot. So if you guys know me, you know that I've always said that no word goes before my eyes in the morning before God's word goes before my eyes. I like to set my mind on His word before I check my email, my text, my Facebook, to start my day out right. It's not necessarily my Bible study time, but I always read the Bible the very first thing when my eyes pop open. And so I've taught my kids that as well. Like before they come downstairs, they're supposed to read their Bible first. And, I told them someday I'm not going to be here. And someday you're going to be gone. And this is your, what you need to develop this habit. But it's been very encouraging for me as a mom to see my daughter go off to college. Now, she's at Bible college, so she is surrounded by, a lot of Christian fellowship and encouragement, and she's taking Bible classes. But it's been truly amazing to see her just blossom and thrive in her walk with the Lord. Like her first priority when she got there was to find a church, to get plugged in, and now she's already volunteering at that church. Like she's just really taken ownership of her relationship with the Lord, because I tell that to my teenagers. My relationship with the Lord is not your relationship with the Lord. Like I can teach you up till a certain point, and then you need to own it. So that's a little about that. Let me go back to some of these questions. So Kylie, I hope that helped. Let me know. Haley says you're enjoying this encouragement and perspective from Southern Illinois. You've been homeschooling for 2 years. Oldest is 7, okay. 2 daughters, 5 and 3. You had registered your 5-year-old, but health issues was keeping you from homeschooling. By the grace of God, you're doing better. Good. With the current climate uncertainty, we've decided to homeschool another year. Praise the Lord. The best thing you can do in your homeschool is to keep God at the center. Pray about your choices. Pray. Everybody says, how do I know if I should, homeschool, or how do I know if I should do it one more year, or how do I know if I should send them to school? Talk to the Lord. I don't know the answers in your life, but He does. And I truly believe that when you are spending time with Him, and this is what my book called Home is about, letting God lead your homeschool. How do you let Him lead your homeschool? By really spending time with Him so you can hear His voice, because our world is very noisy. And there's a lot of voices out there telling you what you should do and how you should do it and what it should look like. But I've always said this, every family has a unique purpose in the eyes of the Lord. He has created your family uniquely for a unique purpose. And so you're not supposed to look like every other family. And so I truly believe that, letting Him lead you to uncover the purposes in your family. And I just got this in my head, and I feel like I should say it now before I forget. If you are on the homeschooling journey, or if you're going to start out next year for the first time, don't be surprised that you have a bad day or it gets hard. Do not give up because of a hard day, a hard month, or a hard season. Because oftentimes in my homeschool, God worked the most through those times, through the difficulties. And in fact, it taught our children more than any book to see how a family gets through a hard time. If it gets hard, that doesn't mean you've made the wrong choice. Sometimes choices are difficult. Our job is to glorify God, to know Him, to make Him known. And it's not always going to be easy. So when we idealize it and we go into it thinking, I'm going to teach my kids in this beautiful schoolroom of in my house, like Instagram ideal. And I write about this in my book, Real Homeschool, letting go of the Pinterest perfect and Instagram ideal. When we think like, oh, I'm going to set up a schoolroom and the kids are going to behave and it's all going to be, peaches and cream every day. I'm going to tell you it's not. It's not, but that's okay. It is okay. And sometimes there's a wrestling that takes place, and that is okay. The most important thing is when you're going through the hard time or you're not sure if you should do it for another year, that you seek the Lord. You don't seek what the lady down the street says. You don't seek what the internet says. You seek the Lord. You seek what He says and what He's leading you to do. Now, I fully believe wholeheartedly that homeschooling is, I think the best thing in the world. But I stop short of saying, like, you need to do it. Do I think everyone should? Absolutely. But I'm not God in your life. I can't say do this. Although right now with the way schools are going, I would highly encourage you to seek the Lord in that area. All right, on. Did I say that right? Because I have a friend on, and that's how she spells it. How do you keep yourself focused on your goal when there's so much pressure and distractions? To be in the traditional curriculum, amazing, with the daily household chores, multi-level students, and dependency on to toddlers' needs. Those are all really good questions. You must maintain a relationship with the Lord so that you can handle all that comes your way. Just like I said, those missionaries that go out on the field, it's not easy. And it's not easy. There are distractions every day. You have a household to manage. You're, a chauffeur. If you work at home, some homeschooling moms work at home. I have a whole ministry that I run now. There's a whole bunch of things that are clamoring for your attention. So you must stay grounded in the Word. And building your family on that Word of God is so important. But you, yourself, as the mom, must stay grounded in the Word. And that is what helps you to get rid of all the voices and the distractions. I mean, that's what I've been writing about at Simply Living for Him for, over a decade now. You have to set boundaries on what you allow in your mind and in your home. Let's talk curriculum for a minute, because in the early years of homeschooling, I was a curriculum junkie. If you are a curriculum junkie, raise your hand here or hit the like button. You know what I mean. That CBD catalog came in. Look at all the hearts I'm getting. See? That CBD catalog came in the mail, and it was like all, the whole world stopped so I could go and highlight and fold pages and I would go on the internet and I would compare curriculum. Like, I would spend my summer on homeschool review sites. Everything looked good. I would read reviews and this looked good, so I'd put that in my shopping cart. Then I'd read reviews that this looked good, so I'd put that in my shopping cart. Then I would read that this wasn't good, so I'd take it out of the shopping cart. It was crazy. Honestly, I'm so convicted that if I had spent that summer seeking God and seeking His Word as much as I did the things on the internet and all the groups and the forums and all that stuff, I would have been in a much better place. If I had spent that time outside with my kids eating popsicles and running through the sprinkler, it would have done them a world of good. They didn't need mommy researching the newest planner and the newest, system and the newest curriculum. They needed mommy eating popsicles and running through the sprinkler with them. And so I tell you that because I don't want you to make the mistakes that I made. And so there's so much curriculum out there, and it's good. It's all good. Find something that works and stick with it. And I'll be honest with you, in the early years, I have a whole chapter about this in the book. Real life is the best teacher. My little guy, who's not so little anymore, I'm always calling him my little guy. He's going to be 12 this fall. His school the past several years has been these farm animals. That is the biggest lessons that he's learned besides, anything in a book. He takes care of these goats. Right now, he's out every morning we have new chickens, old chickens, guinea fowl we got, 2 ducks, and of course his goats. And he takes such good care of them, and he reads his books about animals, and he knows so much that a book could never teach him, this hands-on real life stuff. Sorry, I got off on a tangent with that, I think. I don't remember what I was saying. So when we're talking about distractions, right? I just got distracted. But honestly, there's so much good curriculum out there. Choose something that works and stick to it. Do not spend all your time researching curriculum. Do not make homeschool like an idol. I did that in the early years. I often joke and say, in the beginning, I didn't want anyone to know I was homeschooling because I was really embarrassed. Like I was not confident in my decision at all. And after a few years, I really liked it, and I got into the homeschool community, and I was making it an idol. It was becoming my identity. I was like, give me the t-shirt, you know, give me the bumper sticker, honk if you're a homeschooler, I'm a homeschooler, everybody needs to know I'm a homeschooler. And you know what, quite frankly, I realized how prideful that I'm putting my identity in what I do as a homeschooler. I would rather people look at Karen DeBuse and say, wow, she loves the Lord, than she's a homeschool mom. So you don't want to make it this idol, this thing that like becomes so all-consuming. Homeschooling is a way of life. It's a lifestyle, but it is not your whole life. God is our whole life. Homeschooling is just a part of that life. All right, so Katie says, thank you for sharing your encouraging words. I will address your concerns. Will I have the time you work part-time, 4 to 5 hours? Absolutely. I mean, you will have the time if you make the time. One of the beautiful things about homeschooling is your day is not the schedule of a of a public school or a private school. You have from the time you wake up till the time you go to bed. So you can make homeschooling at night. You can give assignments while you're working. So I don't know how old your kids are, if you said here. Oh wait, 5 and 7. Let me read your next question. Many parents say they spend a couple of hours a day on homeschooling, which sounds great. Very true. And you definitely can manage that. However, you're concerned, what do your children 5 and 7 do the rest of the day when you may not have the extra time? Okay. Wonderful thing that they're going to learn to build their relationship together because they're going to spend a lot of time together. Often when my kids were little, I would, I talk about this in the book as well, I would schedule individual time with each child, which was really just half an hour. So we would do stuff together, and then I would have individual time with them. And while I had individual time with one, the others were never allowed to interrupt me. They knew that when mommy was with one, they had to wait. So I would give them things they could do while they waited, or they could entertain the little ones or play with each other. And that did wonders. Our family is very close. We're very tight-knit. And I really have to attribute that to our homeschooling journey because they spent a lot of time together. And that's not a bad thing. Like in society today, it's like, oh, brothers and sisters, they're supposed to fight. Not necessarily. The Bible tells us to love our neighbor, right? And that means our brother and sister. So they spend a lot of time together. And I'm not trying to say they never fought and it was all peaches and cream. I'm just trying to say that it helped build that relationship. So there was far less arguing as they became older. And far less problems. But so so if you're working 4 to 5 hours a day, you'll probably need to find things that they can do during that time. As they get older, they're going to be able to do so much more work independent. It's hard when they can't read yet because you have to read everything to them. But once they can, you'll be able to find things to give them during that time. And like I said, you have the whole day. Don't think of it as like you have from 8 to 3. Those are like school hours. You have from sun up to sundown 7 days a week. So if you have to alter your schedule for your work schedule, that is perfectly fine. It is not a hard and fast rule that you homeschool Monday through Friday from 8 to 3. You have the whole week to do the work. And then you said, the few hours a day. So yes, homeschooling definitely doesn't take as long as a public school. Even my high schoolers are not working all day. I mean, it depends. Like my high schoolers all work differently, so I won't get into that. But for the most part, you can be done much quicker than a regular school day. Because if you think about in a regular school day, they have lunch period and they have gym period and changing classes and, if they're little, like all the different things. So the actual learning time is going to be far less than we think, like the actual, learning time. So while they have this free time, that might be time where you establish boundaries, like these are the things you do on your free time when mommy's not able to help. And if that means that an hour of that is video or computer time, maybe it can be educational video or computer time, that's okay. Don't get caught up in like, I can't ever let them on a screen. There's a lot of educational stuff, and if you need that time to say like whatever you're doing with your job, I believe that is perfectly fine. So those are some things I can think of off the top of my head. Does that help a little bit? Also, if you have, I don't know if you have homeschooling friends or, people around that you can sort of like delegate with, like, hey, maybe once a week. When my kids were little, we had a friend she knew that I would need a break sometimes. She was an older mom, not older, but like further along, maybe like 10 years older, further along on her mothering journey. So her kids were all in school, and she would be like, I'll take your kids just so you can get, so I don't know if you have friends like that you can ask. I don't know if that helps, but let me know if that does, or if you have any other questions. On says you can relate. Good. So those are a couple of the things. Somebody asked me today, they sent a question in about teenage boys. How do you homeschool? Or teenager. I'm trying to think if these were two different questions. Somebody asked about teenagers, and somebody asked, how does my daughter handle being raised in a house of all boys? I don't even think twice about it. This is just the way God created our family. And so I don't think I think when she was little, she always wanted a sister. But we look at it as this is the family God gave us. This is the unique family, and how do we live in that? And she's very close with her brothers. She has, different relationships because they're different ages. One's 11, one's 17. So the relationship is a little different, the dynamics, but she's close with all of them. Oh, good, Katie, that helps. Great. So I don't know that it hindered her at all being in a house of all boys, but we do joke when she's at college. I'm like, Grace, it's like I'm living in a frat house here because I'm all by myself with the boys. But she has a ton of friends. She was never lacking for girls and socialization. She has a ton of friends that she was able to get close with in girly ways. And, it's just like I said, the way God made our family. So she appreciates her relationships with girls outside of the home. And as far as raising boys, I'm going to put this down a second. Hang on. As far as raising teenage boys, I'm going to tell you that these teenage boys in my house are a joy. And I know that is like something you don't hear always, but I am going to be so sad when my next graduate comes up. This year I'll be graduating my oldest son. I adore spending time with them. So when they were little, you hear about like table time and sitting together in the morning and working together. I think the teenage years, it's even more important to do that. So my boys this year, we established our morning time. We were doing history together and really English together, like doing a lot of discussions and stuff like that and reading together. And we established this time in the mornings that is so precious to me. We sit around the table and we do our history and we have amazing discussions because now they're older. They're like, people. You can have like adult discussions. Sometimes we'd watch videos and just like it's such a joy to me. And it's really not about the homeschooling. It's just about the relationships and being together. And I told them that this year, especially because it's my son's last year, we're going to do breakfast with Ma. They call me Ma. We're going to do, instead of just our usual like discussion time, we don't usually eat breakfast together. Like my kids are older and they all make their own thing. I was like, you know what? We're going to do that. We're going to have our breakfast together and our discussion time together because I know in a year from now, it'll all be over. And so homeschool boys, teenage boys, like I said, are a joy. Don't let anyone tell you different, because if you've built that relationship, then by the time they get to the teen years, and I'm not saying that it's perfect all the time, and I'm not saying that, it's all so happy all the time. I mean, it's normal, but it is so much better when you have that strong foundation. And that strong foundation is built on the Word of God. And so it's been really good to homeschool my teenagers, especially my boys, and to connect with them in ways I wouldn't if I sent them off to school. Like sometimes boys aren't as talkative as girls, right? And they don't tell you everything. So I'm so grateful that we're able to spend this time together. And let me tell you, they are so fun. They are so fun. They make fun of me all day long, but in a fun way. We have so many inside jokes, so many crazy things that we do together, and I cherish every moment. I really do. So do you guys have any other questions? As far as high school, if you think that, homeschooling high school and transcripts and college and all that is daunting, don't let it scare you. It's not nearly as scary as you think. And again, it's really about your priorities. We taught our teenagers, so when my daughter was a junior, and now my son, who's going to be a senior, when they got to that point of having to look at colleges and decide what they want to do, our biggest thing was follow God. That is it. Be open to his leading. Teach them to learn how to follow God by getting in the Word, by praying, by seeking him in all they do. And we said, we don't care if you go to community college, if you go to Harvard. That wasn't an option, I'm just saying. If you don't go to college, if you are a missionary, if you move around the world, we don't care. As long as that's God's will for your life, that's where we want you. So starting in junior year, we didn't pray, please let her get into this college. Please let her get this grade on the SAT. Please let her do this. We prayed, God, lead us and show us where she should be. And can I just tell you, it was such a miracle to watch him work in her life. She thought she had a plan for her life, and he completely changed it. And we watched the whole thing happen, and she recognizes it now. And she's able to give him glory and be like, if God showed up and showed me what to do in that big decision, he'll show up every day in everything, right? And so he's always there. We just have to teach them how to listen and how to follow. And I feel like when we're homeschooling, we get so caught up in how to do things and all this that we don't even listen for God. And he's really the one that wants to show us. We get caught up in what does this person say? And what does this book say? And what does the internet say? What does God say? And so teach your children to listen to him above all else. I told them, you listen to him even above me, because he knows better than me, right? And so you have to teach them how to do that. And it's not just sitting back and doing nothing and waiting like, oh, okay, God's going to speak to me. No, it's actively pursuing him in a relationship, praying, reading his word, getting to know him. It's an active, pursuing his truth. And so it's not just sitting back and doing nothing. It's really actively taking part in letting him lead you. So that's what we need to teach our children. If you could teach your children one main skill in homeschool or wherever they're going to school, that is to follow God and do what he says, to seek his will in everything. Because what good is it if she went off to a college that she never, sought the Lord, and she went off and made, decisions, even though it was the best college in the world? It's got to be God's will. I said, I don't want you anywhere except where God wants you. And I will be fully content to know, when we know that God is showing you where you are to be, then I am perfectly content. And so that is the most important skill you can teach your kids. Give me any more of your homeschooling questions. I'm going to just quickly address, I just talked about older kids. Let's talk about preschoolers, because a lot of you write me and say, what's the best curriculum for a preschooler? The best curriculum for a preschooler is you, the mom, because a preschooler is just starting out their journey, and you're building your relationship with them above all so that you can teach them about the Lord. A preschooler, how many times do you remember a 3-year-old that asks the questions, why? And we're like, why do they ask this all the time? Because that's their curriculum. They're naturally seeking answers in this world. And the best curriculum is a mother who invests in that interest, who looks them in the eye, gets down on their level, and answers all those why questions. Because not only are you teaching them about the world, you can point to God through those teachings, and you're building your relationship. Homeschooling does not have to be complicated. Okay, let's talk about that. I'm making an e-course, Lord willing, it's getting filmed tomorrow. An e-course called Simplify Your Homeschool. Homeschooling does not have to be complicated. In fact, it shouldn't be. The simple things are always the best things. Most of the best lessons my kids ever learned were never in a plan book, were never in a textbook, were things that we learned maybe in discussions, things that we learned in real life experiences, things that we learned sometimes through hard experiences. We teach our children to be people, to become adults, not just to take a test. We are preparing them for life, not a test. And so when we make it complicated and we make it about systems and methods and books and curriculum and lists and schedules, we forget that our job is to raise people to live in the world and not just be so stuck on all these things, right? That make it so complicated. It doesn't have to be complicated. Like I said, I was a curriculum junkie. I would always be changing curriculum and looking for the best curriculum, and I need the be-all, end-all. There is no be-all, end-all. It's all good. Teach them about God, and then you could teach them how to do their math, how to write, how to speak, how to communicate. Teach them all the other fun stuff that goes on in the world. If they have interests, let those interests lead them. Like I have my little farmer boy. He is so into those animals and he wants to be a farmer, and that is his interest, and he's learned more in these past few years than he ever would have in a science book. My other kids have totally different interests. We let them pursue those interests. One of the podcast episodes, the one I did with my son, the 15-year-old, he started his own business this year. It's all about that. He was a wiggly little boy who couldn't sit still. He was, if he went to school, he would have had a very hard time. He has a lot of learning challenges. Learning doesn't come easily to him. Sitting still doesn't come easily to him. And we have been able to channel his energy into really good things. So you can find that in the podcast episode. Katie says, one of the daunting things about considering homeschooling is planning your children's curriculum, making sure you're teaching them what they need to learn for the year. You determine that. Honestly, we get so stuck in these lists. They have to know this by the age of 5. They have to know this by the age of 7. They have to know. The whole world is wide open to them. You have an amazing amount of time from K to 12 to teach them about the whole world and to teach them. And guess what? You will never teach everything they need to know to them. I'm 45 years old, almost. I'll be 45 soon. I don't know everything. I'm always learning. Don't get so caught up on what they have to know, because that will stifle you, and that will, make you feel like you're not doing enough. And, you check off these boxes. So be very careful. It does not have to be daunting. You do not have to check off a list. Some of my kids learned things way more slowly than others. Some were a little more ahead than others. By 12th grade, they all fall into place. I always said by 6th grade, they had it all figured out. The ones that couldn't read well, the ones that could read well, the ones that couldn't write well, the ones that could write well. It all kind of evened out. It all comes with maturity, but at different times for different kids. So don't get so caught up on what they have to know. Who says? Those little things that are printed on the internet, right? There are things that probably my 6th grader, if he went to school, he'd be behind on. But like I said, he's light years ahead in other knowledge and wisdom. He's got a lot of wisdom that most of us don't even have. He amazes me. So just be careful that you don't get stuck on that. How detailed are the homeschool curriculums that are out there? There is everything out there from loosey-goosey to strict formal to, very low end to very over the top, and you'll know everything. And there is everything in that spectrum. But you have to ask yourself, what are your goals for your homeschool? What are your goals? Of course, we want our children to succeed, and that includes academics. But when we make that our main focus, and we kind of forget all the other spiritual side of it and all the, the family building relationship side of it, we can just get so caught up in teaching them things so they know stuff. Like I said, that we've kind of missed out on the important stuff. So you can find every kind of curriculum out there under the sun, which is a good thing and a bad thing. So when I started homeschooling my daughter when she was 5, a friend of mine gave me her kindergarten curriculum. She had been finished with it. She said, "Oh, you're homeschooling? Here, if you want to use this." I was like, "Great, put it aside. We're ready to homeschool." I was that naive. I didn't even know there was anything else. And so a friend of mine said, "What curriculum are you using?" And I told her what I was using. And she's like, "Oh, you're using that? Don't you know there's this and that, and there's catalogs and the internet?" And I was like, "Oh, I didn't know that." I almost wish I could go back to that childlike faith that I had. Here's a curriculum. We're ready to go. Because guess what? God would have worked through that curriculum just as well as he would work through some fancy dancy curriculum, as long as I was seeking him and the most important things first. So sometimes I look back at that and I'm like, I wish I had that childlike faith to just be like, I didn't even know there was anything else, right? God called me to do this and I'm going to do it. And so, will you have everything you need to be successful? If you are keeping God at the center and you're praying for your homeschool and you're asking him to lead you, you'll be successful. And again, what is success? How do you define success in your family and in your homeschool? Those are really important questions because, like I said, of course, we want our kids to succeed. But what does that even mean? You know, do they have to like go to the top of the corporate ladder? Do they have to, you know, go to the best college out there? You know, everybody's going to have a different. For us, our view of success was to raise disciples, to raise kids to know the Lord and to follow him. And you know what? I'll address this as well. That's not to say if you have a prodigal out there, you haven't been successful. You can only do what you can do. God is the ultimate one who is going to work in them. But I know that I was going to do all I could in my 18 years with these kids to teach them about the Lord. And again, it's not just like teaching them, it's living it out and building an authentic relationship with them. So absolutely, you will have everything you need to be successful academically, but most importantly, make sure that you are building into that spiritual stuff. There is so much homeschool curriculum out there that it's almost, you know, like I said, it can be overwhelming. It's almost too much. Like you don't even know where to start. Pick something simple. It's so much better to go with simple and not get overwhelmed because quite frankly, my kids, we do our curriculum stuff, but then they learn so much from discussions that we have. You know, we talk about what's going on in the world. You know, just you can go out with your little ones for a walk and learn so much. And half the time, like we'll be outside and we'll see, you know, for instance, a bird or a frog or something. And they ask questions. I don't know, let's look it up. Before you know it, you spent the afternoon like watching a documentary about animals and learning on Google. Like you can just go down all these rabbit trails and you're gonna learn so much more than just academics. I really believe that, or than just a book. I really believe that the best learning takes place in real life. All right, Rebecca says, what are some ways you encourage your kids to work with a cheerful heart? We repeat quite often Philippians here, do all things without complaining or disputing. And to help each other when they might not want to. There's a book, I have recommended this since the beginning of time. It's called Making Brothers and Sisters Best Friends. We read it when my kids were little 3 times. And that really is, it's an old book now because I'm getting old. But that was a really good book. It was written by homeschool teens. And it changed our perspective about siblings. Like, you know, the world says sibling rivalry is normal. And this book was like, no, it's not. You know, you love your neighbor as yourself, and that includes your brother and your sister. And how God puts you in each family uniquely for a purpose. And, you know, seeing your brothers and sisters as your brothers and sisters in Christ. And so teaching them that doing their work diligently and with a cheerful heart, you do that not because mommy says so, because God says so. And so, you know, I always talk about, sometimes I don't sound like an overachiever when it comes to academics, but it's not about saying that academics aren't important, but I feel like if you're teaching your kids to follow God, then the academics fall into place because they're going to want to work hard. They're going to want to be diligent. They're going to want to do things cheerfully because that's what God is saying in his word to do. And they're going to have that, you know, outflow from their heart, and that will spill into their academics. That's why we have to build that foundation first. That's why we have to build the spiritual grounding first so that they approach their academic. And let's see what else here. I just said my connection went away. Did it? Or we're still there. All right, hang on one second. Your 8-year-old boy doesn't always want to engage with his 3-year-old sister. He's a normal 8-year-old boy. That's okay. You can teach him that. Be like, there's a lot of things I don't want to do in life, and that's okay. But also teach him how wonderful it is that God gave him a 3-year-old sister and a younger sister who's going to look up to him her whole life, right? She's going to look up to him as her big brother, and what an amazing thing that God thought so highly of you to make you her big brother. And what an amazing, opportunity that is, that he can be a leader and that he can be a mentor and that he can be a protector. And so looking at it in that light, like, look what God has given you in this family, rather than just like, I know you have to take care of the 3-year-old sister. It changes everything when their perspective is shown them, like, this is how God intended it. This is how God planned it. God planned you to be her big brother. And like I said, he's not always going to want to. That's just normal too, right? And so if he isn't, wanting to engage with her some days, let him have his own space. But also teach him that he has the opportunity to be that amazing big brother that God intended. And sometimes you may have to force that engagement a little bit, right? Not to the point where he's going to be miserable, because then he's just going to be making you miserable and her miserable. But, if you can get them both doing something that would like make him happy too, and then let him see that it's really not as bad as he thinks. And then also remember, who your child is at 8 is not who they're going to be at 10, and who they are at 10 is not who they're going to be at 12, and who they are at 12 is not who they're going to be at 20. It's a constant, changing and maturing. And so you deal with who they are at 8, but don't get like caught up that like they're never going to like their sister. That's not true. At 8, he may not think she's the best thing in the world, but he's not going to be 8 forever. So it will change and he will mature. And your job as the parent is to help him in that journey as he does mature to the young man that God created him to be. So I hope that helps. Let me know if these are helpful tips. If these are helpful and if you think this is encouraging, please share this video. Share it with your friends, because I know so many people are thinking about homeschooling, and you don't realize just when you hit like and share that there may just be one person out there that you wouldn't even think that may stumble upon this that can help them. So really, it does me so good when you're able to share this with others and let them be encouraged as well. How did you handle puberty and such? Okay. Let's see, I have 1 girl and 3 boys. So the husband does a lot of the stuff with the boys, I'll be honest with you, because they don't want to talk about that with mommy. So he had a book, and I can't think of it off the top of my head. I downloaded it, The Talk. I think that's what it's called. And I'll have to find it and link it if I can. And if I don't remember, you can always reach out to me and I will get you the link. My daughter, we were pretty open about these things, as she approached those years. And so we did books together and talked about things together. And she was really very open, almost to the point where she was like really too open back then. But she was very open at the time. And, we just try to talk about it, make it comfortable as much as you can about like an uncomfortable subject. But yeah, no, that's okay. It's fine to bring that up. You said it may not be a topic for this. But there are some resources out there and some good ones. I'm trying to think. We did use from Sandy Queen when they were really little. Not really little, but when they were younger. I can't think of the names off the top of my head, but I will find those and link them. I have to say that is something I will just be honest with you. I often wish that we were open to a degree, but I almost wish sometimes, as open as I thought we were more open, because the world that we live in, I feel like you really just need to take the uncomfortableness out of it early on and just make it part of your discussion and topics. So that's one thing I'm trying to change with the younger one now, that we are a little bit more, because now he's going to be 12, so we're starting all over with him. And so I just wish that sometimes we would have made it a little bit more comfortable for them. But we did use books and such. My daughter and I did do a weekend away when she turned 13. We did the Passport for Purity, which a lot of people love. I'll be honest with you, we didn't. We didn't love it. But it did give us time to connect on that weekend away, just the 2 of us. So we did that. And like I said, my husband, he's done like books and things with the boys. So any other questions? If you guys have any other homeschooling questions, this has been great. I hope I was able, I feel like it was a little scattered, because when it comes to homeschooling, I have so much to say. So if you have any more specific questions, whether you're a new homeschooler, whether you are thinking about it. Let me look at my notes because I did write things down that I didn't want to forget. You know what I'm going to do in the next few weeks, and I'm not going to say when because I'm not sure, you know how life gets. I will do a video, people have been asking me this, to tell you what curriculum we're using this year. I know everybody loves to see what everybody else is using. Please don't try to copy what we're doing. Don't copy what anybody else is doing. It is good to glean ideas and such, but the reason I show you that is not because I think you should copy what I'm doing, just because I know people like to have a peek inside. So as soon as I have it all solidified, because it's not yet, I will do a video and I'm going to show the curriculum we're using this year. This year I'll have a senior, a 10th grader, and a 6th grader. I am officially out of elementary school years for homeschooling. So I will show our curriculum coming soon. Let's see. Like I said before, I think the key to success is following God, and keep it simple, right? You want to hear his voice, and it's very hard to hear his voice when you have a lot of other voices. You know, it's funny. Something came to me today, this thought. You know how they say, like, you know, in life, you work your whole life, you know, you go into debt sometimes, accumulating all this stuff. What is it they say? Like you work, I don't know, I forget how it goes. The first half of your life, like all this, accumulating all this stuff, only to spend the later years of your life trying to downsize and get rid of it and purge it all, right? And it's so true almost for the homeschooling journey. It's like while you're in it, you're trying to like get all the homeschooling stuff and do all the homeschooling things. And then when you're getting out of it, you're like, I didn't really need this. I didn't really need that. And that's, you know, it's so true. I remember early on, like, we would have all the books, all the educational posters and games and things. And later on, I was like, I don't need all this stuff. I got to get rid of it. You know, you have to evaluate. Is everything you're using really bearing fruit? Is everything you're allowing into your homeschool really bearing fruit? Or are you just striving after the things of this world, quite frankly? Because I don't want to strive after the things of this world. I want to strive after the things of God. And that holds true in my homeschool. So I had that funny thought today. I don't have anything else on my list. So if you guys have any other questions, this is the time now to ask, whether you're just thinking about it. Also, if you catch this later when it's not live, please feel free to write your questions in the comments. I will come back and I will answer your questions later. I have 2 books on Amazon right now, homeschooling books that have been bestsellers for years, called Home: Finding Joy in Letting God Lead Your Homeschool. Every year people tell me that that book has changed the way they homeschool. And it's really about keeping God at the center, all the things I kind of talked about here. So that's on Amazon. There's a paperback edition, and it has a journal in the back also with 31 verses for the homeschooling family, as well as some journal questions to kind of work through what your priorities are in your homeschool. So you can get that on Amazon. Also, my book, Real Homeschool, I linked up there, Letting Go of the Pinterest Perfect and Instagram Ideal Homeschool. So that book is also available. I do homeschool consulting appointments. They take place on FaceTime or on the phone. If you don't want me to see you, that's fine as well. Whatever you prefer. And those are 1-hour appointments, and you can find, I forgot to link it, but I will, or just go to simplylivingforhim.com and click on consulting. And those have been such a blessing to be able to just, you know, let people, like, they just want to pick my brain, or they want me to like go over curriculum with them, or they're just struggling in a certain area, or they're just starting out. I have clients from all walks of life. And it's such a blessing for me as a homeschool mom who's graduated one, is getting graduate the next, to really walk alongside you on your journey and encourage you and help you with any of the questions you have. So that is also available. The Bible-based homeschooling e-course, it's half price right now. No coupon code is needed. You just go in there and it's half price. That is linked up here. That is a 20 videos that walk you through how we use the Bible as our main textbook for 1 year in our homeschool. Like I said before, history, science, language arts, everything we learn straight out of our Bible studies, except math, even though we did learn some math even in the Bible. And so that course really encourages you, no matter what you do, whether you choose to do that for a season. You can do that for a month or 3 months or a year like we did. It's like a giant unit study. Or you can just choose to watch the videos and just be encouraged why it's so important to keep the Bible as the foundation of your family and of everything you do, whether it's in your homeschool or not, right? And then also my new book is coming out called Homeschooling from Kindergarten to College, Building a Family and Not Just a Transcript. That should be available this fall, but I'm on God's timing with that. And then the Bible-based homeschooling e-course. So many people, because it is a guide, it's not a curriculum, but so many people want me to write a curriculum on exactly like how to do it. And I've hesitated on that for years and years because I don't want people to copy what we did. However, I do see the benefit of putting together something that you could follow, you know. So I wrote a Genesis 12-week curriculum on using Genesis for 12 weeks to do a Bible-based homeschool. However, that I don't know when that will be ready. That is still a work in progress because I've been focused on so many other things right now. But that, Lord willing, will come. And then I could see doing a lot of unit studies after that one. But that's just something that right now is on hold. But people have asked me about that. Also, the Simply Living for Him online community, that is not just for homeschooling moms. That is for all women. That is an amazing place, and I can't believe all that God is doing there. I'm teaching Bible studies in there. Right now, I'm teaching a Simplify Your Life Bible study, and I'm super duper excited about it because God has just been teaching me. Like I said, I was just studying here this morning, teaching me so much that I'm sharing with the women, and so that is a 4-week study. That community is completely free. I operate by donation only. But you never have to feel obligated. It's completely free. This is our 3rd Bible study already. And if you join that community, you have access to all the previous Bible studies. There's also scripture writing groups in there, scripture memorization, prayer, daily devotionals, lots of great fellowship and encouragement. So come on over and check it out. It's simplylivingforhim.com/community. You can just check it out and see if you like it. It's free. Like I said, you don't have to do anything that you don't want to there, but I really believe it's so I said it's not for homeschooling moms, but I honestly believe homeschooling moms out there that one of the best things you can do for your homeschool is to grow in the Lord yourself. And so I believe that women that are equipped with God's word are going to be better homeschool moms, better career women, better homemakers, whatever it is you do. Being equipped with God's word is going to be essential, whether you're a homeschool mom or not, but it will help your homeschool to be really equipped in God's word. So it's for all women at all walks of life. Again, if this video encourages you or you think that other people would be encouraged, please share it so that other people can see it and be encouraged as well, because so many people right now are thinking about homeschooling, and I know there's just like an amazing amount of information inundating you, right? And so if you're feeling just overwhelmed, like there's so much information, I can't take it all in, just like set it all aside for a couple of days. Don't research curriculum. Don't research methods. Don't research what everybody else is doing. Take a few days to get in your word and ask God to show you what you should do. I do that every single year. Before I even start researching curriculum or figuring out what we're going to do for the year, I ask God. I just take a few days of just spending time with him. So before you research, before you listen to everybody else, before everybody else tells you how to do it, the best way to do it, God knows the best way for your family. And so seek him. Spend quiet time with him before you start doing all that other stuff. And that is truly going to make all the difference. All right, so anybody else have any questions? Otherwise, I'm going to go. Like I said, I'm hot. But I don't mind because this is really fun. I love encouraging homeschooling families, and I love being honest and real with you guys because I have made every mistake, I think, out there. I have done all the things that I look back and I'm like, but that's part of the journey. And if I could use my voice out here, my little piece of internet world, to encourage you or to help you not make a mistake I made, or ultimately to point you to Jesus, then that's what I want to do. It's all about pointing you to Jesus. Don't let homeschooling become bigger than him, really. Katie, thank you. You needed to hear so much of what I shared today. You're welcome. This is really my heart. I speak at homeschooling conventions every year. This year, let's see, I spoke at one. 5 that I were supposed to speak at were canceled. So, I have a lot to say. I feel like I have all my all my pent up energy from not being able to minister to families this year at homeschooling conventions. So I will do more videos like this. Like I said, I'm going to do one about curriculum. And if there's other videos like this that you're interested in, like a specific topic on homeschooling, I'd be happy to do that. Also, I do a lot over on Instagram. If you guys don't follow me over there, I post a lot of stuff over there. Also, the daily devotionals, I should have linked to that. I do daily devotionals on YouTube every single day, and then they're also linked in the Simply Living for Him online community. So you can find those videos there. I know back during the pandemic, I was doing them here every single day, but I moved them over to YouTube now, and also the Simply Living for Him community. Rebecca, oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. Rebecca says, I feel like a close friend. Well, I don't know if you have your coffee, but I have mine. We're having coffee together. Carol says, thank you. Katie, thank you. You need to. Okay. Well, you guys are very welcome. I absolutely love what I do. If you guys are blessed by Simply Living for Him, I run my community for free. I know that it's not about like, oh, people shouldn't charge. I know people charge for their membership for things, and I think that's okay. Absolutely. Because you know what? We all have to make a living these days, right? So I don't charge for it just because for me, I felt like that's not how I wanted to run it, but I do ask for donations. So whether the community has blessed you or the devotionals or just the ministry here at Simply Living for Him, and you feel so led, you can donate to the ministry at simplylivingforhim.com/donate. And that is always greatly appreciated. So I hope you guys have an amazing day. If you have any questions or you think of something later and you want to comment here, or if you're not watching live, comment below and I will come back later and answer all of your questions. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.